So episode 5 started off as we see that Sagaris finally woke up from being unconscious. And as she wakes up, she is greeted by everyone else and they're waiting for her to inform her about the information that they had gathered in the island. And then so at this time, Gabimaru, he was in charge of looking for food and making the food. So while he was exploring the island, trying to gather all the edible food that they eat, he informed them that some of the foods and the plants that they have to make food is actually there in the mainland. But some of the plants that's in this island smells like humans, and they're coming off from like the human corpse of the other explorers that actually explored the island, and they all got like infected and been made by plants. So Gabimaru stated that he only got the food that was actually natural, like the nuts, the apples, all the stuff that you can find that's growing from the ground. Gabimaru was able to collect and trying to feed everyone because everyone was kind of afraid to eat the food. But then they also are trying to understand about the statues that's around the island because they kind of realize that someone has to live here. Civilization has to live there because these statues of Buddhism and these other religion, it has to be carved, and the technology to make them, it has to be humans that has to live there. And so they're trying to figure out, is there humans still here living in this island, which Sagari explains to them that it's very hard to believe that humans actually live in this island because with the monsters and the animals that's there is very dangerous. Because when she was like killing these monsters and these insects, she realized that these monsters are like animals but humanoid, where they have like blood, guts, bones, and reproduction organs. So at this time, they're trying to figure out like maybe this island was made by God, their God, and try to make artificial like beings, and it just went horribly wrong. And then we see that some of the dead monsters are being eaten by the centipedes that we saw from the last couple of episodes. And then we go to the next scene as Sagari is outside looking at the sunset, and she actually has a conversation with Genji, which Genji goes on ahead and he tells Sagari that, hey, you are weak, you're a woman, and you won't survive here in this island. Go back to the boat and head to the mainland where you will be safe because you hit beyond your limit, because not only that you are a woman, but on top of that, you are not strong enough to actually execute Gabimaru, and you won't survive in this island. So all of this stuff that Genji was telling to Sagari, Sagari was just like, no, you tripping. I'm going to stay here. I'm powerful and I'm strong enough to go ahead and handle this. And you gotta respect Sagari for standing her ground, because all the stuff that Genya was saying is pretty much in that time period where it was mostly common for men to be samurais and not a woman. And Sagari was just one of the few people that just went out of that gender role, because for her to be a woman and to be a samurai and an executioner is very, very rare. So it was wrong for what Genya was saying to her by like how the way that he explained it. If he said it in like in a different way by saying like, hey, I feel like you're unfit with this island, and we just kind of want you to be safe because I'm just very concerned. Maybe that will be different. But the fact that he went to the whole route of just being like very, very rude and also too sexist, it was just kind of just wrong. And so while he was saying that you should go back to the ship, we see the other executioners saying like, hey, this is a bad idea, because every time when people go to this island, they don't return back and they turn horribly wrong. And here we see an example when we see another executioner named Tenya. Tenya is have his prisoner, but the difference with Tenya and his prisoner is that he believed that his prisoner is innocent and doesn't deserve to die, because the whole backstory of that prisoner, I can't pronounce her name, but her whole backstory is that she's from like this village from the mountain regions, and they go against what the shogun has to do with, so they're kind of like at war. So then what happened was that the shogun sent his soldiers to the mountain regions, and they kind of just wipe out her whole clan. And so she kind of like escaped, but then she got locked up. So then they were planning on giving her death row because she's part of this clan. And so Tanya was just like, hey, if you do this mission on trying to get the elixir, this is your chance to survive, and then your whole bloodline will be like survived. So then we see them like in the boat because they're just like, you know what, screw this, we're about to go on ahead and dip. And so while they're in the boat trying to escape the island, they're being attacked by this octopus monster, Kraken. And they also see the other ships from the other explorers who went to this island are all like damaged and beat up. So Tenya, he's trying to protect the prisoner, and he's cutting down every single arms or tentacles from this Kraken creature from the island. So now at this time, you can't even escape from the island. And even if you are in this island, you're just dead because it's literally inescapable at this point. So while they're cutting down all of these tentacle monsters, they see one of the executioners, Kisho. He is the executioner that Gabimaru was fighting his prisoner, and he said he was leaving. Well, apparently he got infected by the flower infection, so he's dead. And then so what happened was that Nuragai, I butcher her name, I know I probably will say it much better in the next video, but she lost hope because at this point she was just like, this is done. But then Tenzai was just like cutting down the monsters left and right, and then he keeps on battling, and he gives her like the motivation to continue on fighting. So then they go on this boat and they landed back on the island, and then here Tenzai realized that Nuragai is not actually a boy, because this whole time he's thinking that, you know, she's a boy, but then he realized that, oh, she's a girl. And we just get a funny scene where he's freaking out because he sees her naked and stuff like that. So then we go back to Sagari, and she talks to Gabimaru, which she actually decided she's going to stay in the island and she's going to continue on with the journey of finding the elixir, which she actually tells the executioner person that wanted her to leave the island, and he didn't like that. So then Sagari make him look like a fool, and he didn't like that at all. So he's trying to go ahead and punish Sagari, but then Ragaroga, the prisoner who actually killed the other prisoner when they actually landed the island, he went in, he killed that executioner, and then the chapter ends as Sagari's in shock that she sees that one of the executioner samurais has been killed by this giant prisoner. And that's just pretty much it. So this episode was pretty simple. It gets more character development on the other prisoners and the samurais that's there, because there is a lot of characters that are in this island. So we get to see more backstory on the prisoners and the executioners and their motives. But we also get more explanations and trying to figure out the mystery of this island, like who created it, what's going on, where these monsters came from, and just all these things. But if you guys do like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and remember, always be decent. This is the Monotone Man, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I just can't wait to see what's going to happen next in the next episode of Hell's Paradise, because we're going to get more information that's going to happen. But yeah, be safe.